Hello everyone, thank you for being here. Today I want to share with you evidence for the existence of a mind without a body. The idea is that if we say that we have a mind and that our minds are not our brains, our minds are connected with our brains, with our bodies. But I want to share with you evidence for the existence of a mind that is not connected with the brain, with the body. It doesn't have a brain or a body. First, what is information? So here we have three examples of some sequence of letters and in one case also of numbers. So if we were asked if which of these one is information, I think we will say is the first one. And if we were asked why, I think we will say because we can understand it. It has a meaning. And the other ones we don't understand them. And if I say to you that the other ones I type them randomly, then you can be sure that very probably they don't have any meaning, so they are not information. But to give a more specific definition of information, what is information? You can say that information is an improbable, non-repetitive sequence of elements. So what does it mean by improbable? By improbable, it just means that if I were to have some letters and I throw them, for example, in the floor, it will be very improbable that the letters will form or the second sequence or the third sequence. It will be very improbable that the letters will form any of these sequences. So that's what it means by improbable. Then non-repetitive, it means that the sequence doesn't have a repetitive pattern like the third example. Here we see a repetitive pattern. And why is that that information should not be repetitive? It's because we have this kind of pattern, we will be very limited in the information that we will be able to convey, because it just keep repeating the same pattern. But the important characteristic to be information is the second one. It must has a function or a meaning. So for example, the second case is improbable, is non-repetitive, but it doesn't have a meaning. So that's why we don't consider it information. And the first one is improbable, non-repetitive, but it has a meaning. So that's why we say it is information. So to see some examples, we see here a rock with some inscription. Is this information? Well, we can see that these marks are very improbable and they are not repetitive. So, and also, they may well have a meaning, because we don't know it. So, what we will need to know the meaning, we will need a code that will tell us, for example, that this part of here means a tree, or this part of here means an animal, and that way we'll be able to understand what is written here. What about this one? Is this information? We can see that it's very improbable in the sense that if I throw some zeros and one, it will be very improbable to form this sequence. But also it's non-repetitive. We see here 11, 01, 01, 01, 01, 01. Then here we have 00, then 10, then 10, 00. So we see that there is variation, it's non-repetitive. And does it has a meaning? Yeah, it's language of computers. So here we have the code to understand what does it say. So for example, if there is this sequence of zeros and ones, it means a D. There is this sequence, it means an M. There is this sequence, it means a dot. So with the code we'll be able to know what is written there. Next question will be, what's the cause of the information? The first option will be chance. Can chance cause information? So let's have this example. Let's say I throw this coin. What will be the probability that that coin will fall this side? So we can say the probability is 1 of 2 of 50%. It's very likely that it can occur 50%. What about if I want to throw that coin 2 times and I want the coin to fall this side at 2 times? I can multiply 2 times 2 because each coin has 2 sides. So I have 4 possibilities, and just one of those 4 is the combination that I want. So it will be 1 of 4. Still, I can do it. It's still somewhat probable. But what about if I want to throw this coin 9 times and I want the 9 times to fall this side in succession? So I have to multiply again 2 times 2 times 2, 9 times. This will give me a probability of 1 of 512. And this means that I have to try 512 times to get one correct sequence of this side of the coin. So it's very improbable. What about if I want to throw this coin 40 times, and the 40 times I want to fall the same side? I have to multiply 2 times 2 times 2 40 times. So this will be the probability 1 of this big number. So we can write it like this also, 10 to the 12, meaning a 1 followed by 12 zeros. So it's very probable that I will get this sequence. There are many more ways that the coins can be combined that will not be the sequence that I'm looking for than ways that are the correct sequence. So let's say I want to form this word just by throwing letters into the floor. So this word has 11 letters. We know that the English alphabet has 26 letters. So in each space there can be any one of the 26 letters of the English alphabet. So I have to multiply 26 times 26 times 26 11 times. So what will be the probability? 1 of this big number, 3 times 10 to the 15, is a very large number. There are many more ways these letters can be combined that are not this word, that is just one, that can be this word. So it's very, very improbable, but could time help? Well, if I have enough time, I can try many times. I may do it. So it depends on how much time is available, but if I just have, let's say, 1 minute, I may just can try 3 times in that 1 minute, and 3 times is not enough because I have to try more times to get just one correct sequence. So can chance cause information without sufficient time? Well, will be very, very, very improbable. What about the second option? Can a physical law cause information? So let's see this example. We have here the example of the law of magnetism. So the law of magnetism says that like poles repel each other and unlike poles attract each other. So the idea here is that, as we can see in the magnet board, you have letters that are attached through their magnets. But the physical law only says that if there are unlike poles, they will attach to the magnet. But it doesn't tell you in which order does the letter should be attached. For example, here there is no order. In this part there is an order of the letters attached in it. So the magnet only tells you that they will be attached according to the physical law, but they don't tell you the order. And it should be this way because a law describes a repetitive pattern. So as we see, we have seen information is not a repetitive pattern. Because if we were by a law, we should find a repetitive pattern. For example, if the law says after the A, you should follow the B, after the B, the C, after the C, the A, and then again the B. So we'll begin to repeat the pattern. So we'll be very, very limited if transmit information, because information needs to have variability. Like in this part, we have different letters, not a repetitive pattern. So can a physical law cause information? Oh, no. What's the cause of information? So I think we all realize that our minds are capable in choosing one option among many options, and we choose that option because we know that that option will produce the effect, will have the function that we wanted to have. So when we choose a word or a sentence, we write a sentence, we choose the correct order of letters to convey the meaning that we want to convey. And those letters can be arranged in many more ways that will not have any meaningful sense, or not the meaning that we wanted to have, and then ways that have the meaning that we wanted to have. So we know that our minds have that capacity to choose, to produce information. So the cause of information is the mind. Then the next question is, does DNA has information? Let's review what's information. It's an improbable, non-repetitive sequence of elements, and it must have a function or a meaning. So this is DNA. The important part in DNA is that we have here the cell, the nucleus, then inside the nucleus the chromosome, and in the chromosome is the DNA helix. And inside the DNA we can see that it has bases, 4 types of bases. And these bases come in pairs. The T will come with the A and the G will come with the C, and they are in the double helix of DNA. So there, is this an improbable, non-repetitive sequence of elements? So it is improbable because the bases can be in different positions. So it's improbable. It is non-repetitive, so we can also see here that there is no repetition here. There is A, T, A, C, G, G. There is no repetition here. But does it has a function to be information? Yeah, it has a function to produce proteins that are fundamental for the existence of the cell, and then the cell's tissues, organs, organ systems, and organisms, living beings. So information in DNA is fundamental for living beings. Here is an example how the cells process the information in DNA. So we have here the double-stranded DNA, then a protein will open this double-stranded, and inside the nucleus there are 3 bases that are floating, and they will begin to attach to its corresponding bases, because remember that the bases comes in pairs, so they will attach to the corresponding bases, forming this template. mRNA is a copy of one strand of DNA, and then this copy will serve as a template to produce or to form a sequence of amino acids. And as you can see, there are different types of amino acids, and the cell will put amino acid according to the information that is in the template, and it will read the information 3 bases at a time. So according to the information in these 3 bases, they will put this amino acid. According to the information in these 3 bases, they will put this another amino acid. And then that sequence of amino acids will form the protein. So there are 20 common amino acids the human genetic code directly encodes. And also there is a genetic code that tells the cell or guides the cells in the translation from the language of the bases in the copy to the language of the amino acids. So when you have this sequence of bases, as we've seen, you should put this amino acid. You have this sequence of bases, you should stop putting amino acids. So it will stop putting amino acid and finish the sequence of amino acids. These are examples of a amino acids chain. So we have seen that DNA in fact has information. So what's the cause of the information in DNA? But in the first living cell, note that there was a time that there was no life in this planet, but then there was life, and the smaller living thing is a cell. So the first living cell has information in it, and what's the cause of that information? So the first option, can chance cause the information in the DNA of the first living cell? So we said that we have 20 common types of amino acids. So let's take this as an example. We have here DNA, then the transcription, this is the copy, and then the translation to the amino acids. So let's take this part of this protein, this short sequence of amino acids of this protein, and see what's the probability of creating this sequence by chance. So this part has 8 amino acids, so in each place there can be 20 of the amino acids, so we multiply 20 times 20 8 times. So what will be the probability? Is 1 of this big number, 2 times 10 to the 10. It's a very big number. So there are more ways that this will be that are not this sequence. So more important is that a protein in reality have more amino acids. A small protein can have 150 amino acids. So we'll have to multiply 20 times 20 times 20 150 times and get how many combinations there can be. And this Dr. Douglas Axe, he's a biochemical engineer, has calculated of those combinations of a protein of 150 amino acids, how many of those combinations are functional. So he has helped to calculate it in 1 part of 10 to the 164. So one protein in 10 to the 164 will be functional. One protein of 150 amino acids will be functional. So there are many other ways the protein will not be functional than the protein that will be functional. And a protein can have more than 3,000 amino acids, like RNA polymerase. And also one small cells require more than one protein. So if we take, for example, a minimal cell with 250 proteins of 150 amino acids each protein, the combination to produce it will be 1 part of 10 to the 41,000. So it's a very big number, very low in probability. But could time help? Can, if it is keep try, maybe it can be produced. So this William Dembski, this mathematician and philosopher, has made a calculation of how many tries can the universe make to produce one protein of 150 amino acids. So he calculated the total number of events that could have happened in the history of the universe. The number of fundamental particles in the observable universe, 10 to the 80. The number of interactions that a particle could make per second at the speed of light, 10 to the 43. the time that has passed since the Big Bang, 10 to the 16 seconds. So he calculated that the upper limit will be 10 to the 139 tries. But the total number of tries to obtain one protein of 150 amino acids, it is 10 to 164. There are 54 zeros of difference. So the universe didn't have sufficient time to even arrive to the 50% likeness to produce just one protein of 150 amino acids long. So there was not sufficient time to produce just one protein of 150 amino acids. Could time help? So we can say that no, that time is part of the problem. There is not enough time to produce it by chance. Can chance cause the information that DNA of the first living cell? Is very, very, very improbable. What about a physical law? Can the physical law cause the information in the DNA of the first living cell? So let's remember the example about magnetism. We say that law only tells that the things will attach, but it doesn't tell the order, and it must be that way to allow variability and to not create repetitiveness. So what happens inside the DNA? So here we have the DNA have some bonds that make some things to attach to others. For example, the phosphodiester bond attaches the phosphate with the sugar. The hydrogen bonds keeps the bases attached, come in pairs. And the glycosidic bond makes the sugar attached with the base. But the important thing here is to note that the glycosidic bond can allow any base to attach to it. For example, here the glycosidic bond allows the T, here the C, and here the A. So the glycosidic bond only tells that it will attach to a base, but it doesn't tell which base it should be there. And also there is no bond that is telling you that after the A there must be the C, and after the C there must be the T, and so on. There is no bond, and it must be that way to not create repetitiveness. So there is no chemical interaction that is causing the sequence to form, the specific sequence to form. So can a physical law cause the information in the DNA of the first living cell? No. So what caused the information in the DNA of the first living cell? Well, it would be a mind. A mind can easily choose between among many possibilities the one that knows that will create the function. So a mind can do that and do it against the improbabilities, because it can choose. It knows what can happen if it chooses this sequence or another sequence. But why this mind should be immaterial? Why this mind should not have a body? So somebody can say that the information that was necessary to create the first living cell on this planet could have come from another planet. Maybe somebody brought the information here. But the problem is that we are trying to explain the information in the first living cell. We say, well, the information comes from a mind. But then we say that this mind has a body, the material mind has a body connected with the body. Then we have to ask, well, that body also needs information to be built, because to build something functional, it must have the correct sequence of elements to produce a function, because there are many more ways that the matter can be arranged that will not produce something functional the ways that will produce something functional. So that body must have need the information to be built. So we will be again in the beginning asking, where does that information comes from? So the best way to answer it it would be to say that this mind doesn't have a body. So in that way, we don't need to explain that, again, the information. We can say this mind is immaterial, doesn't have a body. If you want to know more about the evidence, you can see this book. Most of the information about this presentation come from this book and from this author, Dr. Stephen Meyer. So I hope it is helpful, the book. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.